My name is Joykogawa, and what else do you want me to say?
So you're in the film industry, or how long have you been getting involved with like film production?
How did I grow up?
Yeah.
I was born in Vancouver in 1935, and wrote about the story of my life essentially as fiction in a novel called Obasan. And so today, I'm just here to talk about East of the Rockies, but you would like something more than that?
To say why you make that AR pieces, and what's the objective? How you want to use that your film or to reach the audience? What kind of expectation?
Okay, well, since I'm a writer, the way I work is not quite. I don't think ahead. I just fall into something, and whatever comes, and then it happens, then it follows. So I didn't think about any audience, I didn't think about any story, I didn't think about anything when I when I had a phone call from Jam 3 people. I didn't know what Jam 3 meant, I didn't know what it was, I didn't know what AR was, I didn't know anything. And they called me and talked to me about an idea for a story, and I thought, okay, and that's all. And so that's the way I work. I write like that. I don't think ahead, I think after.
I see. So the Rockies is your story, and the AR is the germ-free technology, is that right? Or
what is my story?
Yeah.
The story of my family and my community, the story of what happened to all the Japanese Canadians living in Canada in 1942. That's essentially my story, because I was a child at that time, 6 years old. So what happened, because the Second World War happened, and Canada fell into the war too. So because the enemy was Japan, I was the enemy. My community was the enemy. Although we were Canadians, but Canada saw us as the enemy. And so we were taken away from our homes and put into camps. And all our homes, they said we can come back and have them back after the war, but that didn't happen. After the war, they did not let us go home, and instead they sold all our property, so we could not go home. And then they had a dispersal policy, which meant you may no longer live as a community. You have to be separated from each other. So all across the country, Japanese Canadians were spread apart like a necklace, all the beads separated. So we could not be together again. So as I grew up thinking, we have to be just one Jap. You have to be the only Jap in town. That's what I was, the only Jap in town. All of us were like that. So the question is, when that happens to your community, what happens to the people and the families? So now today, 95% of Japanese Canadians intermarried, so they didn't marry together. So the children are white children, and most of them don't know each other. There are some, but there's no Japantown. There's very few, no member of parliament. You're a very small group. And some people came from Japan, they live here, but they're very different. Our experience is different. So this is an interesting story about what happens in war to people, just ordinary people. This kind of thing happens. And so it's interesting, this story about what happened to us. So
does the government correct this kind of like mistake?
Well, after This happened in 1942.
Yeah.
And some of the children who grew up
Yeah.
hearing about it, some didn't hear anything about it because older generation like to not talk,
Okay.
not say anything bad about government so the children will feel like Canadians. But some did hear, and they thought that's really wrong thing to do to people.
Yeah.
They're not guilty, you take away their home, you take away their livelihood.
rights, yeah.
And so they started a movement in the 80s called the redress movement.
Okay.
And I was involved in that too.
Yeah.
And it's sort of very exciting to see some people don't know who they were and started to come together and to form the redress movement. I wrote that in a book called Itsuka, after Obasan, that's the sequel, about that movement. So in 1988, the government apologized, acknowledged that it did something wrong, and there was some compensation for this.
I see. Okay, my last question. Now, your stories tell, all right? People, Canadians need to get to know the past history. So how do you feel about it?
Well, I think not everybody knows, so it's good. It's being told again, and so it's good for Asians all to be together and say, yeah, what happened was not good, and it happened because you're Asian, but not just Asian, you're Japanese, you know. So to have the support of other Asians is very powerful, and it's good for, because in Asia there's a lot of conflict amongst the different countries.
That's true.
So if we can show in Canada, we can work together. That's a really good thing for Canada to say. We are all Asians, but we all experience something similar. So that's a hopeful thing.
Okay, thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
I'm Jason, I'm the RAX facilitator at ReelAsian, and we are playing East of the Rockies. It's an augmented reality film written by Joykogawa and made by Jam 3 Productions with the NFB. So this part we just have some text for a bit, and then we have some more interactive
I
parts.
was born on December 17th, 1924. My parents named me Yukiko, or elves now. Most people just call me Yuko. My aunt told me the children of East of
Oh, you don't see the bar there.
So I'll ask the questions. In July 4th, 1942, months after the
So if we use one of those later, it can show virtual reality. So it kind of blends in what's in the background, but also a bit of like virtual. Whereas this one is just in the game, no virtual reality, no augmented reality. Excuse me.
So it's an AR film.
AR film, yeah.
AR film. Okay. So then you can choose from different angles.
That's right.
Different perspective. Can you change the story?
Not too much. It's more interacting with the story, and then you can actually see also like the background. So that kind of makes it more real life, like in a way, or brings kind of your present day and yourself into the story.
Can you fast forward a little bit?
Further down the story? Sure.
There are different chapters, right?
Yeah, there's 3 different chapters. It's during the at the internment camp, then after the internment camp at the farm, and the final stage is the present.
I see.
And Dirk was from Holland.